You are enough. In the battles that you are facing, you are equipped and you have enough, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's unfair to someone else.
It
To
is.
expect them to be this, whoever I think you should be.
It was a pretty traumatic event. And so I felt safe with him and all of this.
If you want to drive that successful. Welcome to VIP Aids, the game plan call.
All right, guys, let me ask you this. Drop a one in the chat if you guys like read the message that I had sent yesterday. Today is gonna be a Valentine special. Regarding if you guys have a spouse, you guys are in relationships, or you're in a similar situation like myself, like you're on the ready to get married, ready to have a family, all that stuff. Drop a one in the chat real quick if you brought like your spouse, significant other, anybody else like that here with you today. We have two very special guest speakers on, and I want to sort of preface this conversation by, getting on the same page when it comes to the fact that this business, we talk about this all the time, right? The business obviously in terms of schedule is one thing, right? The schedule of this business is not really around our schedule, right? It's around the client's schedule. But then when it comes to like at home life, it's extremely important for us to understand if things are not good at home in terms of relationships with your family, in terms of relationships with your kids, in terms of relationships with whoever else is in your life right now, it's going to be very tough for you to be successful here, right? So even if you have a relationship, even with your cat, right? You don't show your cat or your dog enough love, it's the same thing, right? Bring them here too. It's very important, right? Or your goldfish, whatever. Make sure your goldfish is here. But regardless though, so I say this to say that we wanted to take some time to carefully consider like what kind of discussions need to be had, right? And we brought on none other than Daren and Alexis Joseph for today's call, the power couple of the year. If someone could pin them, that'd be great. But regardless, though, are you guys here right now? Can you guys hear me? See me? There we go.
Yeah.
Mr. Joseph. Very good.
Good
Very good. How you
morning.
doing, man? Good morning. Good morning. What's going on, Alexis?
Another day in paradise.
Let's go. Are you guys like in the same room right now? Or are you guys like in different?
Yeah, she's right here, literally.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. How do you guys like make that happen though? Like you guys don't talk over each other when you talk to clients, or?
I use my AirPods, and AirPods are really good with noise cancellation because she talks loud, and so I hate, and I can't hear. I hate hearing things around me when I'm speaking, so I have to keep it on.
I kick him out of the room.
There you go.
I
Excellent
mean, when I'm on colics, I kick him out of the room because headphones don't like to be. It doesn't matter how much I invest in headphones, they still don't want to be noise cancellation. But we make it work. Either he some days has to kind of turn his head, or I turn my head. But otherwise, we're on AirPods, and it cancels out the most of the noise.
Yeah.
We're gonna want to know a lot more about how you guys, make it work in the household too, in terms of like the family dynamic, because like that's pretty much like everyone's wanting to know. We have a lot of, especially within our organization, our organization is growing so fast, right? And we have a lot of people who are already in relationships. We have people who are in new relationships, having children on the way, things like that. So I know I kind of talked to you guys a few days ago. We were trying to find like the perfect candidates to like come up and speak. I know we have the Nugents here as well. They've been like the golden example, the gold standard of how to manage a family and then obviously manage the business too.
They're mentors of ours.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's definitely talk a little bit about that too. But I know, Daren, you've been in sales for just about 22 years before coming here. Alexis, you built a few businesses before coming here as well, and then you were at this company, and then both of you guys, if I'm not mistaken, you guys both overcame a lot of hardship and setbacks that like could have defined you guys, but you guys rose to rise to the occasion. So you guys want to share a little bit about your journey together, and then how both of you ended up in the insurance industry, and then like what were some of the biggest challenges you guys faced early on as a couple?
It's a loaded question.
That was solo. That question requires therapy. Um,
Mm,
go ahead.
we got time.
Oh no, there's not enough time for that one. We got together. I recruited him from a multi-level
Correction,
marketing.
she didn't recruit me. She didn't recruit me. We met at a business conference in North Carolina, and she was kind of tasked to be my handler, right? So she was kind of like, show me the ropes, whatever. She didn't recruit me.
Like a puppy. He was like a
My
puppy.
Lord.
And then we became friends from there. It was kind of just understanding each other. And moved across the country. It was a long distance from Cali to Maryland. We got together, I moved my family up and moved to Maryland, and we got married about a year and a half later. And it's been some stuff. Like we've had our ups and downs. We've each had pretty decent jobs that all of a sudden just got ripped out from underneath us. And being in the practice company and also just watching Harold and all of his success with his new adventure. I called him, I think I was like 6 months pregnant. And I was like, I'm doing it. And so got on board, got released while I was in labor, sold my first sale at the day before I gave birth. And just looking back, yeah, there's been no looking back for us. And then my husband saw our success. First month it was like 20K written or submitted. Second month was like 30 plus K submitted. And he saw the success. He saw the deposits coming in. He's like, okay, I'm doing this. Like I see what you see. Because he's been in sales, the majority of his life, but life insurance pays out the fastest. It pays out all of it. It's got the most residual. It's got so many opportunities there for life insurance. And he's like, I'm on board. So he started taking the class. We moved to California with a 2-month-old. Don't do it. We moved across to California with a 2-month-old. And yes, Harold didn't pass me the first time. It was Harold, Omar, an aunt, and there was literally a nurse coming in to my release meeting as I'm trying to breathe and connected to my contraction machines. And I think Aunt might have the picture.
If
But
not, I do.
but yeah, and Darren joined and started up, and it was kind of like no turning back. We just burned all our bridges and looked to the experts for help every single step of the way. And that's us.
Yeah. I mean, you covered it all pretty much. I don't have much for me to really say.
There's a lot of ugly in between there, but without therapy,
There's a
that's where
lot.
we're at.
It's a lot. It's been a lot of
Talk a
growth.
little about the ugly. We need to know.
The
We need to know
ugly,
about the ugly. Not
the
the.
ugly
We need to know
is
about
we were toxic towards one another. The ugly was we were
it.
homeless with
Mm,
4 kids, a newborn, and my mother who is older and not exactly the healthiest. The ugly is we went, we battled each other to the point where we were not making sales. And the ugly
mm,
is, I've had a conversation with Braden saying, hey, I'm going to figure this out. Let me do a quick DoorDash or an Instacart. I'll make sure that my CRM doesn't go negative again.
mm,
The ugly is we spent more times with the Nugents, with Harold, with Anthony Ferguson, with everyone, with our prayer team, like more time there because we understood that, and I tell this to our team all the time, you're only going to grow to what your mind allows you to grow to.
mm,
So you have a $3,000 a month mentality. That's it. So you want to grow to a $1 million mentality, then you look to the mentorship of your pastors, you look into the mentorship of Harold, you look into the mentorship of people who are doing it. And Daren and I were talking yesterday, and we made an agreement early on in our marriage that if we wanted to succeed at something, you only go to the experts for the success because they've done it.
mhm.
So we looked at Harold's, we looked at Ant, we looked at all of these people. We stayed on the Zoom, we stayed in training, we stayed in prayer.
We keep moving. That's all you really can do is, you know, the saying, I forget what the actual saying is, but if you're going through hell, the only way to get through it is to actually keep going. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the mentality, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
especially with a business like this, and really it's with anything that you want to do. If you don't have the conviction to stick through it, the grit to get through the hard parts, because it's the hard parts that shape you. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
like to equate everything to the gym because the gym makes sense to me, right? You go to the gym and you work out your muscles. You don't see a shift. You don't see a change right away. You only see the change if you stay consistent, and that takes weeks. It takes months to even see it. And if you don't have that type of commitment level to whatever it is, whether it's your marriage, whether it's yourself, your own self-care, your work, if it's a job, whatever it is, whatever you're doing in one area of your life, you're doing it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't recognize where your holes are internally, you're gonna keep on letting all this water out, right? And then that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the mentality. It's like, yo, you got to stick to it, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
and plenty of times that both of us have been like, yo, I don't want to do this anymore with you, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do this. Like it's you know, but
Too
you have
many.
like you know, we've heard people say, we've heard Harold talk about it, be like, yeah, I wanted to quit this business numerous times, right? And I'm sure in a marriage is the same. Anybody's marriage is the same thing because you're going through a process, and that process is not meant to be pretty. It's not
Mm-hmm.
meant to be safe, right? You gotta That process is gonna show you more about your own self than anything else,
Yeah. My husband always
right?
refers to it as a mirror. We're holding each
Mm-hmm.
other, we hold each other accountable because we're with each other 24 hours a day. And so he's my mirror, I'm his mirror. I see my ugly, I avoid mirrors at all costs in general. And now I got this man sitting next to me all day being like, you sounded like crap. Like, and and he's real with me.
Mm-hmm.
And, my husband is my best friend at the end of the day. And he's who we chose to spend a life with. We made commitments for life. And so we have to go through the ugly together. And that's a lot of it is the Nugents are great because they're like, no, you guys need to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys need to make sure that you have levels of this is the importance and making sure that you know where each other's at during the day.
Mm-hmm.
If I wake up in the morning and I just ain't got it and I need to reset, I'm gonna look at my husband and be like, nope, I need to reset. Like I need to do something because otherwise I'm gonna go psycho. And I'm a woman, I'm gonna go psycho. And so he knows that.
Well,
And
I've had
so
to
he'll be
learn
like,
that.
look,
I've had to
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, he
learn
learned it
when
the
I
hard
should
way.
when to push a little bit and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna let you be right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you
Emotional
do what you
intelligence.
do.
Yep. Emotional intelligence. Gotta have that.
Yes, but we had to learn that, and we went to the experts, and and I'm gonna keep giving praise to the Nugents because they were people that sat down with us at like 9, 10 o'clock at night their time and said, no, this is how we work, and this is how we're able to do things. The
Mm-hmm.
Nugents also lived all over the country and were able to go, from place to place to place, and we were homeless. So we're like, well, what kind of internet are you using? We were in a homeless shelter for at one point, and my husband says displaced. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. We were homeless.
Mm-hmm.
We were bouncing from Airbnb to Airbnb, and there were days where we weren't sure if we were gonna sleep in our car and had to literally look up safe parking lots.
Thankfully, we never did.
We never did. God has always covered us. But that's the reality. And so, but we also knew that the only way to go through this was to go through it. And so
Mm-hmm.
we talked to Heralds and have appointments about leads. And we talked to the Nugents and asked them how they did it. And then also, what internet are you using? And then we just consistently asked and stayed humble the whole entire time. And consistently, one thing that Harold taught us is servant leadership. We served other people. The more people you help, the more it comes back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And we served and we helped grow our team and we helped everyone in our team and started weekly trainings because Ant threw us underneath the bus and our team continued to grow. And the next thing you know, January, we submitted $51,000 in business.
There you go. There you go.
So it's a consistent thing with us.
You turn the old man into a God's plan, you know? You guys talk about, you said this, you talked about, going through hell with somebody and, it shapes you, right? We say this to, all the time, especially when I'm like interviewing people too. It's like, I say, especially with people when they come from other organizations, right? Because like when you come from a different organization here, the biggest thing is the trust factor. Do you have the appetite for risk to trust again like you trusted before? It's easy, when you come into this business, it's your first time coming to this business, or you're seeking a new opportunity. Everyone's gonna sell you the dream, and that first time is like it's your first time, right? So like you're sort of open to everything, right? Like, oh yeah, absolutely, I'm gonna believe most of the things that they say, but then when you get your trust broken, right? Do you have the appetite for risk to go and do it again? So we always say, in the interview process, like, we'd like rather sell the nightmare than sell the dream, right? So like, if you have the appetite for risk to go through hell with us, right? If you want to get to know somebody, go through hell with them first, and that'll show and see how they react, and that'll show you, if you can trust that person or not, right?
Bro, that's such a my bad. Go ahead, keep going.
No, go ahead, I'm listening.
That's the
Well, I was gonna
loaded.
say that's such a deep topic of learning to open yourself up, right? To trust again. You know, I think that applies to so many things. Like I'm a creative, right? I'm a musician and do all these things. And for a while, sometimes as a creative, you get blocked, right? And that relates back to that trust factor of, oh man, I did something and maybe somebody said something that I did that hit me wrong and I lost my trust, right? Happens in relationships. There have been moments where we've lost trust. So how do we open ourselves up to trusting again? And again, it's the same thing everywhere. No matter what, you can take this topic and apply it in so many different areas of life. And the key is, I think, that if you are not willing to trust and open yourself up to be vulnerable, to be hurt, to be disappointed, to fail, you're really not going to do anything because you have to be willing. You have to be able to allow yourself to open up again, and understand that, look, people are people.
Yeah.
Right. I don't put, this may sound bad, I don't put my trust in people necessarily, like, because I understand people are going to be human, right? None of us is perfect. And we are going to make decisions that she might say something that I don't like. I might do something she doesn't like, right? But that's because we come from different perspectives. Even though we're married, we're two individuals who are walking our own as much as we are joined. We have our unification journey, but we have our individual journeys as well. The things that I got to learn, the things that I have to overcome within myself ain't got nothing to do with her, and vice versa. Right? So we're going to see things differently. The key is, can you be open to communicate with each other about your journeys? Can the other person be willing to understand that your journey isn't their journey, and have that level of compassion and hold some space while you're going through your journey and you're learning things for yourself. And as you learn things for yourself, you're going to bring those lessons and those moments into everything else that you do. So ultimately you get better, but you have to be willing. And I think that's the key. You have to be willing to trust again, have to be willing to face the BS. Because if you're not, what you doing? You ain't doing nothing.
Right. What's she doing? That's the bare truth, man. You talked about writer's block. I think that's what it's called, right? When it comes to like making music.
Yeah,
There's
he
something
gets that
called
on
closing
occasion.
block too.
Yeah.
Block is a thing too.
Like,
we've had that.
Really good one. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had that. We've had that plenty of times. And you know what we did? talked through it, went to the experts, and rejuvenated, like we were able to rejuvenate mentally and do the work. How many people on my team, have heard me say, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And one thing I tell everyone is every single setback is just a lesson for your comeback, right? And it's just the more pressure you have, the more diamonds you're creating. And so we've consistently, when we have those blocks, we take time where I'm not wasting a lead. And I'm going to go ahead and reset me mentally. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the experts. I'm going to go ahead and do some personal development. I'm going to do what's needed mentally so I can go in there and understand. Sometimes it's a me thing. Sometimes it's just the stroke of bad luck, right? We all go through leads and we're going to run into people that it doesn't matter what you say to them, it's going to be a no. You can be the HD of sales, it's still going to be a no. But that's part of the process as well. But we just have to learn from it and be the student. The longer that you're the student, if you're constantly the student, you're constantly growing and developing. So if you're constantly the student, the more you'll be able to overcome. And I always tell people, always be working on yourself. There's presidents out there that literally died with a book underneath their pillowcase because they never wanted to stop learning. And people are able to learn so much. Was it President Roosevelt? He had a stutter, couldn't walk correctly, do all of these things. And he was able to become the president of the United States because he never stopped being the student. And that is a mentality to always have, because you have to be willing to learn through your ugly.
Yes, no doubt.
So,
Yeah, and each other's ugly,
Someone asked how we do this with kids.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that for sure. We're gonna open it up for like questions and stuff again, for sure. The big thing too is like, it was this time I'm very visual, right? So when you're explaining this stuff, I'm like trying to like picture this, right? In my own shoes too, because you see in this generation too, it's very like what you guys have right now is like, I wouldn't even say it's 1%. I'd say it's like a decimal percentage, because typically when things like this happen in this generation, at least my generation, at least, it's like, people are always walking out. Like when things get hard, it's like walk out, right? Or I'm gonna jump to the next one. It's super easy, right? So like, I always like one of the first people that came on our call, his name is Tristan. I don't know if you guys were there. You guys were on that call, right? So
yeah,
he says this thing. He says, he talks about his significant other, and he says like, if you love me, support me. Don't just love me to love me. Like, love me and support me. Like, if I'm going wrong, tell me I'm going wrong, right? Tell me what I'm going through. And it takes a significant level of like humility to be able to like, sort of take that in.
Well, it takes a different level of love too, because you can love someone into their paralysis.
Yes.
Where you're just enabling them to fail.
Too much. Yeah.
So if you really truly love someone, you're going to tell them you're screwing up. You're doing this wrong. You're being a meathead. You're being a jerk. This sounds horrible. You have to love them enough to tell them they're screwing up, because you don't want to love them and support them into enabling, because then you have someone that's going to go from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. I just want you to love and support me, but you never did thing. You never did that thing. And I loved and supported you through that, but you never did this thing. So you can love someone into their failures. But if you truly love them and truly you, they're going to hear you as you help kind of nudge them on and to stay on the path and to keep going.
Yeah, it's literally a two-way street when it comes to that, because as much as you have to be willing and open to communicating with whoever it is, your partner, your spouse, business partner, whatever it is, and tell them the truth. Like, yo, you're doing this thing, right? The other person also has to be willing and open to actually listen without being offended. Because oftentimes what will happen is people will, because they have different perspectives, because they understand what's behind something, or maybe it's how you said something, or maybe they're just not at that moment to actually be hearing you, right? It takes a listener and it takes a sender and a receiver in order for a message to really get through. And you have to have both. Otherwise, it doesn't work, because you can send a message, but if the message isn't being received, it didn't go anywhere, and vice versa.
Yeah, man. Did you guys like getting to know each other? Did you guys like have like a certain like set of sort of expectations? Because like I'm like trying to picture this, because right now, you know,
I
and then also,
perfected this.
did you guys have a set of
I had
expectations?
expectations. I thought my husband was going to be like this king walking on water. I thought he was like Mr. Perfect. I envisioned him. I prayed for him. I planned for him. I prepared one of the things my pastors always taught me is prepare your kingdom so you can actually receive your king or queen. Meaning you have to do the work on yourself before you can even receive. You can't receive a king or queen without a kingdom of your own. Right. So I did this. I did the work. When I met him, I was a survivor for domestic violence. Someone came into my ex-boyfriend came into my home and tried to murder me, and he broke my spine and all this stuff. And it was a pretty traumatic event. And so I felt safe with him and all of this. And you really don't truly know a person until you live with them. But you really don't truly know a person until you live with them long enough for them to let their guard down. And sometimes that takes months, but sometimes that takes years. And so we had this expectation of each other. When Daren thought I'm going to assume that Daren thought I was pretty cool because he stuck by me, but I was an alcoholic and I had issues because I was dealing with trauma. Someone tried to murder me, and all of a sudden I'm in a relationship with you like a year later. I mentally wasn't ready. So, but I thought he was the greatest thing walking. And,
Well, I am.
he had things like he didn't go through what I went through.
I had
So
other
he
stuff.
didn't have to prepare his kingdom.
I had
So
other stuff that I needed to confront.
We're the total picture of yin and yang. I'm pale and glow in the dark, and he is my chocolate. And we're everything that we're the opposite of. I'm loud and boisterous, but really, really, I hate crowds and I don't like people. And he's out there, center of the party, sings karaoke, does all of that, award-winning actor and award-winning producer, has a song that we're still getting paid off of that hit the Billboard charts. Like, that's my husband. And then there's me who's like, get the F away from me. And so we had to learn, it didn't matter what our expectation was of each other, because none of that mattered when we have to work together. None. Yeah. Dude, my husband is so Filipino, Harold, it's ridiculous. He is very fabulous.
No, it's because Caribbeans and Filipinos aren't that different. I'm Caribbean.
True. But we're complete opposites. So what we had envisioned for one another and what we thought the other person was, we never knew, because we didn't live together. We didn't spend that time together, and we didn't go through hardships together yet.
Yeah, it was a lot. There's a lot that I'm talking about expectations. I don't think it's possible to not have expectations of people. Especially when you're dealing with like relationships and stuff like that. Because you got to think this, until you actually get into a space where you are analyzing who you've become. Like, how did I get here to this point? And you go back and you're like, man, I had this experience as a kid. And you really just start peeling back the layers of who you are, because who you think you are, is just a culmination of your past experiences, and you've learned to create this shell around you to protect yourself from all of those things that happened before, but you're still carrying around all that energy. And until you are actually willing to look in the mirror and peel back those layers and see not the ugly in it, but the beauty in it, and see now and accept yourself as you are today, it's tough, because it's really unfair to expect another person to be your savior or to be your healer, right? Or to be anything that you should be for yourself. Because you got to be all that for yourself first. And then then you can add in to each other.
Yeah.
Right. And the process of doing it in a relationship is you're going through that process together, but separately.
Yeah, I recommend therapy for every couple. I think that therapy, couples therapy, but therapy for yourself is a great thing to have, because when you do, when you do, and you go through the therapy and you go through the motions, cognitive behavioral therapy, or I had to do EMDR because I'm a trauma victim. And there's all these different types of therapy. When you have that, and then on top of therapy, you have mentorship and you get a coach. Like I have a coach and a woman that I go to who helped me when I was recruiting for MLMs and training for MLMs. But I trust her because I know that she's just not after the next dollar that I'm able to provide. And she has a good mindset. She's a woman, she's an entrepreneur, she's a mom, she's a wife, she's all of these things, and she's able to succeed at all of those things. So whatever your expectation is of a person, throw it out the window, because you're never going to really truly know what and who they are until you go through the shit with them.
And they'll never live up to your expectation.
Never.
Because that expectation is this fictitious image that you've crafted in your mind about who they should be. And that's unfair to someone else. To expect them to be this whoever I think you should be, because you're not even dealing with the person themselves. You're dealing with your own imagination of who they are and holding them to this judgment that they're not living up to what you think they should be.
Yeah, I love the women with the lists. He must be this tall, make this amount of money, do this, that, and the third, have this, have that.
I got that in my phone right now.
You got that? You need to become that.
No, but it starts with what I gotta provide
exactly.
first.
But you want that list to happen, you become the list. You don't attract what that list is until you become the list. I want to be okay. First of all, some of y'all ain't never going to be that tall.
Yeah, exactly.
But some of you might not have this. You want a guy that goes to the gym 6 days a week. You take your ass to the gym 6 days a week. Like you want this, you want that. You become the list. My pastor always told me that if in preparing your kingdom, write down what you want, and then you become that. You want the house, you build the house your dang self. Like you want this, you do this. And so, you have that list of what you want in a wife. You become what you want, what it requires to have that as a husband.
Yes.
So fun fact, I did the same thing before we got together, right? I wrote down because I think I just gotten out of something and I was like, I'm done with all this. I'm just let me write down, here's the qualities that I want, that I would like to manifest. And it wasn't long after I was like, I got clarity on that I was like, oh, it's Alexis. Oh, okay. Because she just it worked. But what I didn't realize was exactly what she said, that I needed to become those things first.
Yeah.
So a part of my process was figuring that part out. But unfortunately, in the process of figuring it out, there was a lot of damage that I caused to where we were. But I don't even want to say damage, because I feel like that's just a part of the process. It's just our process, right? So, and I think we got to get rid of this idea of that we've damaged it.
Exposure.
No, this is what you needed to experience.
Yeah.
And you had to go through this in order to learn it. And it may suck as you're going through it. You may not understand why you have to go through it now, but you'll get it later.
Yeah.
And you have to trust that. That's what having faith is, right? You have to have faith that in the process, it may not feel good. You like making phone calls. Nobody likes to make phone calls. I hate making phone calls, right? I don't want to call people and cold.
Yeah, he had a goal where I'm going to make 10 phone calls.
For real.
That's how because when we got off of the CRM text messages and we went into dialing, he had to sit here and hype himself up. And you can ask Nico, because he was like, you're so full of shit right now. But he'd
No,
be
but
like, I'm
see,
making 10 dials. And that's where he started. And that's where we started.
Mm-hmm.
because again, I relate it back to the gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to the gym and try to do, you know, 215 on bench right away.
I do.
You work your well, you're different. You work yourself up, right? And the way I see it, I think we live in a society that's so much, it focuses too much on the end result and not enough
There you
on the
go.
process.
It focuses
That's
on
the thing.
instant.
That's
Yeah,
facts.
it focuses on the instant gratification and the end of the end result, as
Yeah.
opposed to saying, hey, let's go through the process. Start off
Yeah.
small. Start off with
Yeah.
something that you know you can handle. If it's one call, 10 calls, 50 calls, however it is, you can do this. Start
Mm-hmm.
there. And then you start to build up a little confidence. It's like, last night, the Super Bowl, what was his name? Tom Brady was saying that the Chiefs just needed to do something to gain a little bit of confidence. Unfortunately, they did it too late. But that's the idea. You have
Mm-hmm.
to start somewhere and build up the confidence. You don't just come in with all of that. You build all of that.
And you plan
Mm-hmm.
it.
Two suits for a
Yeah.
Chiefs.
But you
Exactly.
plan it too. So, we live in a microwave society. Everyone wants
Mm-hmm.
everything yesterday.
Yeah.
Y'all, you're not gonna become a millionaire like that. It's not gonna
No.
happen.
No.
And every single person that you all of a sudden see immediate success, actually, if you look at their back ends, they've been grinding for years. There is no
Mm-hmm.
such thing as immediate success. Now you can have what is it? It's ignorance on fire is what my mentor used to call it, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
you're just hitting the ground running and you just go through the stuff because you're like, whatever, I just know I need to go through notes. I know I need to make these calls. Do you want it? Yes or no? Do you want it? Yes or no? Do you want it? Yes or no? But most people can only use that fire for so long. And the
Mm-hmm.
truth is ignorance on fire, the fire gets burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
And so then now you have to learn, well, how do I deal with the no's? Well, now how do I
Mm-hmm.
deal with this? And the best way to do all of that is through personal development. The
No
best way
doubt.
to do all of that is not just through personal development, it's communicating with a mentor and
Mm-hmm.
looking for the person who's done it and has gone through the stuff. Because I guarantee you, if you ask HD, what has he gone through to get to where he is?
Yeah.
What have him and his
Yeah.
wife gone through?
There you go.
Jen is
Yes.
amazing,
Yeah. Insane.
right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, at the practice company, Harold would be there before any of us and he would leave after all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Harold was always there.
Still
And
does.
so we watched our mentor, exactly. But he
Yeah.
was away from his family then. Now we're with our kids. This one's got the flu. Um, and now we're home with our kids. But what did Jen go through? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going through the ugly with that person and learning how to. And I'll consistently preach it. Go to someone that's done it, ask them how, replicate it, and
Mm-hmm.
just keep going. You go through the
Yeah.
no's, you keep hitting too many no's, too many
Yeah.
not interested, too many F offs.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's reset.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's the bare truth. Can say it any other way. And that, it takes a supreme level of accountability to be able to do what you guys are doing too. I also clarify too. You talked about the list. This is a very important thing, right? Like people want this dream, like perfect person, right? But like we have to, like you said, Alexis, if you let me finish, I was trying to say that the first thing on the list too is like what I need to do first. I need to do it first, and then I say, okay, what do I expect based off what I'm doing? So we're still working on certain things, but no, definitely take a supreme level of accountability. Extremely important. Have to be able to do those things. Let me ask you like this.
Huge.
So it says like details, right? Like I think a lot of people want to know, like, how do you guys like divide up the responsibilities at the home and like in the business to make sure like none of you guys, like neither one of you feels like overwhelmed or like neglected? Like how do you
Mhm.
guys, like, what's that dynamic look like? You guys have like a
First,
SOP? You guys have like
you
a
cannot, there's a feeling of not being overwhelmed.
the best case scenario is not. Best case scenario is not. But you guys, luckily, you guys work together, right? So, like, what kind of advice would you give to somebody? Like, let's say they don't work together, and like they see their spouse like on this call all day. Like, how do you think someone should like go about having that kind of conversation?
Enroll,
Yeah.
enroll, enroll, and enroll. You're not getting anywhere unless you're all on the same page.
Yeah.
So you want to make it happen. You know what we did at the beginning of the year, actually at the end of 2024. Right, you want to go ahead and grab her? What we did at the end of 2024 is I wrote down every single one of our bills every single month, and I total it at the bottom. Y'all want to know the total? The total $17,000 a month is how much it costs to run
Yeah.
our household with rent, with bills, with business costs. It's about $17,000 a month. And then we did what the Nugents taught us. We reverse engineered how to make $17,000 a month. And then we got every single person together in our house and said, this is our goal. This is what we need. What is it that you want? And we asked every person. Daren said what he wanted. He said what he wanted. This little one said what she wanted. Our older kids, my mom, everyone in the house said what they wanted. Said, okay, well, how do we achieve this? And we showed them, this is how many hours I have to work. This is how many people I have to talk to a day. Meaning this is how many appointments I need to have. And we enrolled. And then we put a prize on what the end game was. We do this, okay, so if we're able to hit these goals, now we can go to dinner every single month at a restaurant. Or we can save up a couple months and now we can go to Disneyland. We enrolled. Everything that we do, every person who plays a part in it is enrolled in it. So they know it's going to take 10 hours a day in order for us to make this financial leap. This is going to be required of us to do this. And then we all got on the same page and we just started executing. That's how we did it.
So what I would say is, yes, people have to be enrolled 100%. Again, it goes back to willingness, right? If you are in a relationship, you have to be willing to work together for a common goal, right? And if your goals aren't aligned, then that's an opportunity for a conversation to get aligned, right? And I would say, especially in marriage, because if you're just dating, it's easy to be like, you know what, I'm out of here, peace, because it ain't working out, right? But in marriage, you're in this commitment because you're building a life together. Like my life is her life is my life, right? It's not so easy to just break away when you have so many things that are intertwined. So what else do? You figure it out. You do your best to say, all right, how do we get what we both want? Right? How can we do that with what we have right now? Because you can't base it off of what was or what could potentially be. You have what is, right? What is we have this. How do we work with what we got? And that takes conversation. It takes humility. It's a give and take. It takes, I think one of the biggest things people have is, and I have to read the book. I haven't read it yet. Ego is the enemy, right? Is that that's the book? But I understand the concept, right? Because we have so many things about our ego that is like, men. No, I can't. Especially as men. Especially as men. Especially as men.
We've been killing each other's human existence over this stuff, man.
For real. For real. And it really doesn't have to be that deep. But we're mostly unhealed people walking around on this earth. But you got to be willing. That's like, if you don't, and that goes back to a willingness in the mind can create magic. Literally, just the willingness. Because if you have the level who is it? Green Lantern.
You would have to have a nerd. Only you.
I'm a nerd. What are you saying? The Green Lantern he creates and manifests things with his ring just from his willpower. It really is no different in our day-to-day life. That character is just a metaphor for life itself. You
Yeah.
have the willingness, you can manifest it, you can create it.
No doubt. No doubt.
Harold said it best. What's your excuse?
Yep. How do you guys, let me ask you this, like, how do you guys like
Turn it down,
set
baby.
goals together? Like, what are you guys' goals like as of right now? Like, how are you guys like, what is that like? If you could paint that picture, like, how do you guys set these goals? How are you guys like checking in with each other? Things like that.
So
'Cause that's a really big
our
piece, yeah.
our goal right now is so we just hired a dialer. Our goal right now, honestly, is to hit Hall of Fame. We both believe that we're in a really good position to do that. And we're putting the pieces in place that would allow us to be able to do that. And
Yeah.
we both know we have the capability of doing that.
Shout out to Usman, who taught us that. He came on a meeting and was like, if you don't have the time, then you have to be willing to give the money. And that resonated with us going and being able to delegate is one of the hardest things that we learned because we have kids, because I'm still nursing, because all of this is going on. So we had to learn how to delegate the majority of it. So our goal is Hall of Fame. Well, how in the heck are we going to get to Hall of Fame when we barely wrote such and such amount last year? Right. And see where and so we analyzed numbers because we kept track of all of our AP. We kept track of sales, excuses, if they were already covered. If they were already covered, if it was a straight up no sale, and or if it was a follow up. Like we even kept down to the reason for the no sale, right? So we understood and we were truly able to reverse engineer it. And so it was, and then we figured out how to delegate. Well, we don't have enough time. Like Usman said it, if you don't have the money, then you got to be willing to give time. Well, we have 6 kids. We don't have the time. So we had to be willing. So we were able to team up with people and get a dialer who was able to dial for us like 20 hours a week. And then I was able to get on Collex. So we knew that Collex was going to be helpful because it was inbound calling, but we needed to buy the licenses. And so you'll see me and my husband will work nights and weekends. I'll do serving jobs, bartending jobs on nights and weekends to make sure that that part is taken care of. And then we'll figure out the rest because we know and we believe in this industry so much, and especially our team so much, that we're willing to work from 6 a.m. until 2 a.m. the following day to make sure that we have that extra $200 to invest into leads or to buy that license. So, and that's how we've done it. So we reversed engineer it. We enrolled everyone in it. We said, this is what we need to do. And then every single time, we're hitting these numbers. Now, how do we get to the next level? And we'll sit down and we'll talk about it and we'll say, hey, this is working. Hey, one of our teammates needs this. Hey, if we do this, and then we go to Anthony every single week. We have our one-on-ones with our mentors. And Ant's like, okay, well, do this, do this, do this. And we stay coachable.
Big piece, yeah.
Because if you're not coachable and you're not being a student, you're going to be stuck right where you are.
No doubt. You guys are like the prime example of like being the fruits of what it's like to create like a winning organization, like with like the proper culture and the proper support piece. I know you come from a different organization as well, Alexis. So like, so do I. We come from a place where the support, the reputation wasn't really the best, and you can see how it kind of affects the organization as a whole. It's easy as a leader too. When you're you have people who are in your organization, people who are on your team. It's easy to be like, yeah, I brought this person in. I'm big dog. They were doing great numbers, but what about the people? What about like how are they doing at home? How are they doing like outside of the business? How
How
are
are
they
you
doing
as a
within the business?
man?
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Your character means so much more especially when you want to get to levels. You
Yeah.
are not going to get to any type of level and elevate yourself if you are not a good man or a good woman,
Yeah.
period.
No
If you
doubt.
are
Period.
deceitful, if you lie, if you do any of that, you aren't going to elevate. You may hit big numbers,
Yeah.
but how much of that is going to be sustained? Right?
No doubt.
Wherever the light, wherever, whatever you do in the darkness will always show in the light. Be a good person. Harold has taught us one thing. If he's taught us anything, it is servant leadership. Harold is always serving others. What has Harold been
Yep.
able to do? $1 million in AP. How has he
Yep.
done it? He's been a servant leader. How has he been able? And you watch him, and he is a good man. He is a good father. The Nugents,
Yep.
they're amazing people. They're an amazing couple. They are
Yep.
great, everything. How are they doing it? They're serving others. So every
Yep.
single person you see succeeding is helping others succeed as well,
Yep.
and
Yep.
has the character, and they are good men. They are amazing women. They're always doing all of that. They are good people, period. So if you
Mm-hmm.
want to sustain, be a good person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sustenance.
So
Sustenance is huge.
I'm gonna compound on what she said, but I'm gonna shift slightly. Instead of looking at people as good or bad, you understand that people are just people,
Mm-hmm. Human nature.
right? People are either healed. I don't think anyone's fully healed, but people are healing, and it just depends on at what point of their healing are they at, right? And you have to understand that not everybody, especially as leaders, not everybody is going to be ready for everything that you have to offer because you have experiences, right? And you just meet them where they're at. You meet them where they're at and you work with them. Ultimately, it's their decision on what they want to do, right? But you can't force people to do or be anything.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you really can do is stand there and hold a door open. You hold a door open and say, hey, here's a door of opportunity. I would
Be
and
like
let them
me when I
decide if they're going to
recruited
walk
my
in.
husband for marriage. He's like a puppy, a
Oh my
scared
God,
puppy.
will you stop?
I will always use that. I've used it for 5 years. It was like, we're safe. It's okay. I'm going to feed you. It's okay. I'm going to like pet you. You know, when we find, I watched a documentary of me, a rescue, a puppy rescue. They're super, super scared and timid at the beginning, but now you just show them that it's safe and you consistently prove that, hey, it's a safe space. And that's what sometimes we need as mentors. And please pet your husbands. Yes, pet your husbands. Give your husbands love and praise. Everyone needs
Rub their
it.
booties, rub their stomachs.
Make
Yeah.
sure that with your spouse, make sure you're giving them the acknowledgement. I need to acknowledge my husband. My husband will tell me you did amazing today and high five me after the day because 95% of the time I'm looking at my colleagues and I'm like, I'm at a 33% closing ratio. I'm like, that's unexpected. Like that sucks. And really, I closed 100% of my calls, but I had two calls that were under 2 minutes. And so I'm still sitting there in my head, it's not enough, it's not enough. Then I got my husband over here giving me high fives. You did great today. You closed this person. You sounded amazing. So that acknowledgement is very, very super, super helpful too.
Very
So
much so.
that also goes back to how you treat yourself is how you treat other people.
Mm-hmm.
If you are super hard on yourself and if you make a mistake and you're like, oh, you know, um, I'm gonna say it anyway. I don't know if you can edit it later. Oh, I fucked up. Oh, I'm so stupid. I'm this. I'm that. I'm this. I'm that. Well, then you look at everyone else in that same light, and that's not gonna work. So you have to have compassion, one for yourself, and you have to be willing to see yourself and acknowledge your own self, right? Because then you start seeing, oh, okay, this person is dealing with this and they need that compassion. But if you don't know how to give that compassion to yourself, you can't fully give it to another person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No doubt. You have to be good first, man. This you said it a few times, man. Like this generation is like just people think that someone else can heal them, right? It's just the relationships with the broken people that are coming together to, sort of heal each other. And most of the time, that never really works, right? Yeah, of course, it's our job to support each other, right? We have to support each other. There's always going to be times like, maybe there's times when, Mrs. Joseph, she has like, certain things of things that have happened in the past. And, it's your job as the king to make sure that, she's feeling safe and things in that regard. But she also has to do that level of work to be able to get to the point where it doesn't get so extreme, right?
It's a two-way street.
So, I mean, it's in the foundation. You guys talked about, the Almighty as well. You talked about God a few times too. I think how do you guys feel about like that? That's a big piece, like the foundation.
Our faith is huge.
Bridges the gap between things.
Yeah. Our faith is huge. Our faith is what gets us to humble ourselves and be able to go into prayer. Our faith is what gives us the opportunity to go to our pastors and to go to help and to realize and to accept that we're not perfect, but we're always, we were made whole in his vision and he has destined us for greatness, right? And to know that you were born and created from someone that knows every hair on how many hairs you have on your head, and he destined you for greatness. You have to be willing to fight enemies off in order to get there. And he knows that you can get there if you don't give up. He knows that you're going to get through the illness. He knows that you're going to get through this period of poverty. He knows that you're going to get through the no's. He knows that you're going to get through this. So, and it's just constantly during those days where, hey, I don't think I can keep going, God give me the strength.
Yeah.
On days when my kids are sick with the flu and I'm trying to figure out what to do because, hey, I have to get off of colics because my son's fever is 103.8. We need to go to the hospital. It's God, give us healing in our home and give us the strength to continue. And it's always having that constant faith within each other. When my husband and I are at odds, God, give me understanding so I understand where he's coming from and give me the ear to hear what he's trying to say. And you have to be willing to have all of that. So faith is huge, and having faith is the ability to essentially to know that something is coming that's greater without ever seeing it, right? To have the faith to take the next step.
Yep.
And have the faith to fall back on the ground after you've taken 5 steps and to keep going up that next step.
And
I think one of the things that people don't do enough of, and I say that because we deal with so much anxiety in society nowadays, is we don't. Wow, y'all did y'all see that the foot? But people don't, we deal with a lot of anxiety and things because I don't think we really take a second to truly step into the feeling of gratitude. And because the quickest way to overcome anxiety, to overcome those feelings of depression, is to truly get grateful about where you are and what you have now. Because if you can't do that, then all you're going to see is lack. You're going to see all the things that you don't want to see. And the truth is, whatever you focus on is going to grow.
Yeah.
If you
going to
focus on
you feed whatever you focus on.
If you focus on the fact that you didn't make the sale, or you didn't get whatever it is, well, then that's what you're going to get. You're going to consistently get the experience. This in the Bible is I shall not want, right? The reason for that is because if you are talking about you want something, what you're really saying is you're making a statement about that I don't have it. I want this thing, but you're only going to get the experience of wanting and not having, as opposed to if you make a statement of gratitude.
If Dylan said it best.
I'm thankful that I can take a breath this morning. I'm thankful that I get to be here and build this business with my wife. I'm thankful that I get to experience and have opportunities every day. I'm thankful that I'm healthy. I'm thankful that we're building wealth. Be thankful. Even if it's something like you may not quote unquote have right now, you can still have it right now. You can focus on how does it feel? How would you imagine it to feel if you had that thing right now?
Since we're talking relationships, you guys want to know how to get through that ugly part? You can't stand your spouse this morning. You don't want to deal with him. You're looking for a way out. Write down, instead of all of the things that you see that you can't stand about your spouse, give me 10 things that you can. Give me 10 reasons what made you fall in love with them. Give me 10 reasons on why they're so amazing. And if you really want to flip the script, do that. Focus on the positive and not the negative. So you want it to work with your spouse, you're married, you committed your life to that person. You need give yourself 10 reasons why they're so great. Not buy into the 10 reasons why they suck. You are having a hard time in this business. Give me 10 reasons on why you got into it and 10 pluses. And I promise you're not going to quit, because you'll always look at those 10 reasons. Now, some of us might have to go back to a 9 to 5 in order to make things work, but that's okay. Just know that you're going to consistently make it. Stick with those 10 reasons. This is why you did it. You want financial freedom? Okay, so now you find yourself working a part-time Saturdays and Sundays, or maybe Friday nights, so you can fund the financial freedom. That's okay.
No doubt. Yeah.
But give me 10 reasons.
Yep. The Lord gives his toughest battles to his toughest soldiers, and does not put one through a battle that it cannot bear. Right.
Exactly.
So,
he equipped David with a slingshot, and that was enough. Right. So if he can equip you with a slingshot, and that's enough, then you are enough. In the battles that you are facing, you are equipped and you have enough. Period.
You know what I was looking at yesterday that I found quite metaphorical? It was a strawberry. The seeds all over a strawberry, and from those tiny seeds, like, you can create a whole strawberry tree. And I just think that's amazing, and it speaks to faith. If you put your faith in the right environment, then you can grow the fruit.
Yeah, you guys were surrounded by it. Literally surrounded by it. And I've been in environments. I've worked for State Farm. I've worked for farmers. I've worked for the practice company. I've worked in sales. I've worked in recruiting. I've worked in different MLMs. I've done all of that. I've never seen an environment that's so focused on helping your neighbor.
Yeah, for real. I was in solar for 8 years, and the solar industry is very supportive, and it's also very, like, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't want to say dog eat dog. It's not that, but it ain't this.
Yeah. Here we'll hand out leads to one another. Hey, I have a lead. I can't work. Here, I have an appointment. I can't work. Can someone else take it? Nowhere else are you going to find that. You're not going to find that at another industry. You're not going to find that at another office.
Yep, no doubt. Winning culture, man. They say everything rises and falls on the shoulders of leadership, right? We talk about this too. It's like, I tell the people, I say, if you guys, we preach this message, right? We have this way about doing things, but the day that you see me, or you see one of our other leaders, like, doing something that doesn't align with what we say, leave. Don't stick around. Don't stick around. You had the appetite for risk, and we've let you down in that regard. We can't sit here and preach this message, because if you let one thing slide, right? Like, you see, we talk a lot about loyalty, right? Talk about loyalty, but you hear that I've done something disloyal to someone that's significant in my life. I would never. How do you know that I won't do that to you in the business? Right? You can't. Oh, there's nothing about it. It has to be like that. Very important. I think we're almost. Yeah, go ahead.
Just on that, I always look at things like saying, well, breakdowns create opportunities, right? So I wouldn't say at the first sign of something happening, you just cut tail and run. Address it. Yeah. Okay.
Address
it with the person. Transparency is big.
That's merciful. That's a merciful approach.
Well, because you got to think, we're all human.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to do something that you don't agree with because you may not understand where they're coming from and why they made that decision. And instead of, because that's what society says nowadays we do. Oh, you don't do something I want you to do. Bye. Cancel culture,
Mm,
right? But what
mm,
happens if you have compassion? What happens if you say, yo, let me talk to you real quick. You did this thing and I don't agree with it, and I'm gonna tell you why I don't agree with it. Now, what does it? What does
mm,
it say? Biblically, you go to the person first, right? If you have an issue, then if that doesn't work, what is it? You go to a trusted advisor, or no, you go to God first. You go to God
mm,
first,
mm,
um, and make sure that where you're coming from is from your heart, right?
mm,
From a place of love. Then you go to the person, or you go to
mm.
a trusted advisor, and then to the person. I forget the exact thing, but the main thing is compassion. Don't just quit just because somebody does something that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
Address it with them. Give them an opportunity to make corrections.
And
Now,
then,
if they don't make the corrections, there are many ways you can go. It doesn't all have to result in for me, because I had to learn when it came to marriage and just commitment in general, that I had to abolish the idea of divorce.
Yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
had to say, you know what? No, I'm taking that off of the table, because unless I take that off of the table, that will always be the option, because that's
Yeah.
that's the safe thing, quote unquote.
Hmm.
That's
y-
what
Yeah.
seems like it would be safe
but the
to
other
do.
thing is that maybe that mentor is not a good mentor for you.
True.
So, being humble, open, and transparent is a big thing. But also understand that, sometimes we do get into mentorships. There's managers out here who are no longer managing certain agents because that wasn't a good fit for them. They couldn't have
Mm.
that AB conversation to the point where
Yeah.
that agent is able to succeed. And so
Hmm.
having the humility and the transparency for that, because we all have different personality types. The way that you fire up your team, the way that you manage your team may not be the same way as the way I manage the team, which is not the same way as Ant manages the team, which is not the same way as Daren manages the team. And so sometimes we have to understand, hey, yes, I'm your manager, you can come to me, but maybe this person is better for your mentorship to
Very
help
much
you
so.
grow. And
Very
we
much.
as managers have to understand that we're not the best fuel for everybody, but it
Yeah.
might be better with this person. And
Yeah.
that's, if we're not, that's humility on our end. That's also understanding that you have to give people grace and compassion and be transparent with them, but also gives you the opportunity. You don't have to cut out and go. Just
Yeah.
maybe that mentor is not right for you.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yep. It comes back all back down to humility. Let me
There's
ask you
so
guys
many
this though.
avenues, so many roads
Yeah.
that can be traveled
Yeah.
down. It doesn't all have to go down this one.
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. Where do you guys see yourselves, like the last sort of like finishing question here? I think we honestly we got to do this again. We got to run this back because I think we need a part two. We need a sequel for this. But where do you guys like see yourselves in like the next 5, 10 years, like both in the business and in your personal relationship, and then like how do you guys align your vision for the future as a couple and as business partners? Like how do you guys do that? What's the
Ooh,
plan in that regard?
That's a good question.
we haven't gone that far. We know we have a yearly goal right now that we
Okay.
have to, so we have an understanding.
Okay.
And that also gives us the opportunity to learn to overcome what are consistent obstacles and to change the cyclical cycle we're in.
Mm,
And so right now for us, it is because of the fact that we just came from the situation where we didn't have a home, and because we didn't have this, and we're still learning, and we're still battling health issues and stuff like that. So since we're still there, we understand, and we're giving ourselves like a few months to understand, and then we'll regroup. But right now, we were looking at what, 10 agents that we're going to help make $10,000 a month minimum, working full time. Daren wants to get back into music. If y'all look up the Whistle song by Joel Santana, that's my husband. That's his song. That's his whistle. Like he wants to get back into music and he has the opportunity for that. He wants to get back into the acting and he has the opportunity for that. I just want to be able to delegate childcare, a chef, and house cleaning. That's my needs and wants. And so we just want to get there. So we only have it as far as a year. And that's just because we want to be able to fine tune the obstacles that we have to prevent us from going back to being homeless, to
There you
prevent
go.
us from going back to being. So it is baby steps. And as we learn, we'll expand our vision.
There you go. Beautiful. And at least you guys have a plan in place, right? Whether it's a year or 5 years,
Step by
like
step,
very
Yeah.
much
every
so.
month,
And you
every
guys,
quarter.
you have it for the business, but what about like in like between each other? Like how are you guys? Pardon?
Yeah, we have the pieces of ourselves that we're working on. You know, we want to get back into the gym. We want to do this. So we have all of that set up. You know, we want our credit score to be this. We want this. And so it is broken down month and then months into quarters. And like the main goals are broken down into quarters, and then the annual goal, the end game is Hall of Fame, 10 agents, back in the gym. You know, he gets his abs back. I get this one off of my boob. Like there's things there that we have personally. We want to be able to take these trips. We want to be able to afford these things. We want to be able to do these things. And you know, I want to be able to eat like HD. And so all of those things are what we have as goals. So we just have them as monthly, quarterly goals. But every month we need to meet this, and we meet these goals for this month, and we continue to meet it. We'll meet it for this quarter.
There we go. Let's go. Very good. Very much so. Compound effect. I
Yep.
love that, man. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you guys. I think we're pretty much strapped for
Sure, man.
time, but thank you
Thank
for
you.
you guys joining us today. I think we're gonna open up for questions here in a minute. But if you guys know anybody that missed this call, man, this one's gonna go viral. So I suggest, once it gets posted, you guys like, comment, subscribe, send it out to all your loved ones, and we'll definitely have to do a vote after this to run it back. We're gonna need a part 2 out of you guys. But thank you so much, Daren Alexis Joseph.
For sure.
Of course.
For sure.